Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Writing Workshop's Elements of Narrative Week 2. This should be Thursday, but I'm not completely sure, so let's just work on it. The only material that you need is pencil, paper, your width, and your full undivided attention. Let's get to work. So today, our objectives are I will help you understand the concepts of narrative and show you the different elements of a narrative, okay? We will together think about a story and identify the elements of narrative in it. Okay? And then you, on your own, will write a mini story including the elements of narrative in it. I'll show you how. So, first of all, you guys know that there's four main literary genres. There's poetry, drama, fiction, and nonfiction. Now, there are different kinds or types of literature, and each has defining characteristics. When we talk about narrative, it's important to point out that we can have fiction or nonfiction narrative. Last week, we talked about Thomas Edison and Henry Ford. That was narrative because it was a story, but it was nonfiction because it was true. Whereas fiction means that it's something that is fully made up. All right, so just wanted to point out that narrative, it's almost exactly as story. Whenever we hear narrative, we're actually saying story. So narrative is the same thing as a story. So what are the narrative elements? So here we go. First of all, setting. I know that in fourth or third grade, they told you that setting is the place where something happens. But in fifth grade, we also add the time. So setting is time and place where something happens, where a story happens. And then there's characters in the story. There's always characters. Without characters, a story wouldn't be a story. So is the people and sometimes animals, when it's a fable, for example, in a story. The protagonist is the main character, whereas the antagonist works against the protagonist. Sometimes stories have villains, and those are actually called antagonists. Not all of the stories. For example, Thomas Edison and Henry Ford, it didn't really had an antagonist because Thomas Edison was not going against Henry Ford, so we cannot actually call him antagonist. But some stories do, and that's when we call them antagonists. And this two are usually in the exposition of a story, which is the very beginning of a story. That's where the characters are exposed. They're shown to you. All right. And then there's something that we call the plot. And the plot is what happens in the story. The characters face a conflict or a problem and they solve it. And we kind of divided in this five parts. We already saw the exposition. That's the first thing that happens. Then there's rising action, and rising action is where the character usually finds the problem. Then there's the climax. It's the most important part of the story. Here, if it was an action film or sci-fi or something like that, we could hear the music intensifying, and it's all exciting. And it's the turning point of a story. And then there's the falling action, where everything starts to settle down. It's getting better, and we are pointing towards the resolution. The resolution is pretty much the ending of a story where everyone lives happily ever after, and when it's the conclusion of the story, the closing of the whole story. All right, and then the theme is the story's message or lesson. What is the story teaching you? How is the story helping you be a better person, maybe? So the theme is not usually stated directly, but it can be inferred from the events of the story. You can kind of figure it out. They're not going to tell you, oh, you have to be a good person. No, you kind of have to figure it out yourself. So let's see an example pretty quick. Let's pay attention to this video and listen to it.
This video is about the elements of a story. The first element we're going to talk about are the characters. The characters are who or what the story is about. The next element is the setting. The setting is where, like in a store, and when, like on your birthday, a story takes place. The next element are the major events or plot of the story. Generally, things start out okay, but then the character has to overcome some challenge before life returns to normal or almost normal. When we put all of these things together, we create a story. We pick a character, put him in a setting, and give him a challenge or obstacle to overcome. Here is a story about Ollie. Ollie got a phone call from his friend Janessa. She is in the park and needs help. Ollie hurries to the park to help her. Janessa, what's wrong? Ollie, my cat is stuck in the tree and I can't get him down. What will I do? I can climb the tree and get him down for you. Yay! Ollie, you saved my cat. Thank you. It was nothing. Want to go get some ice cream? Okay. Ollie and Janessa walked off to the ice cream parlor together. The end. Now let's talk about the elements in our story.
Okay, so at this point, I want you to pause the video and try to figure out the elements of this story, this narrative. I want you to think about the time where it happened, the place, which characters are involved in this story. And then in a sentence, I want you to write down in your writing journal, just for you to have notes. In a sentence, what is the exposition? You can write, the exposition was when this, and this happened. The rising action was when this, and this happened. The climax is when blah, blah, blah happened. Okay, so that's your sentence then. The exposition was when, and then you write it down. Pause the video. Then we're going to see if you guys got it right, okay? So return when you're ready. I'll be here waiting. Okay, so I guess you're back. Let's continue figuring it out ourselves. First of all, we found the characters. I'm going to get out of the presentation so I can write. The characters. Well, we had two characters, and we learned about their names in the beginning of the story, and it was Ollie and Janessa. The setting, pretty much most of the story happened in the park. I know we were at a time in Ollie's house, but mostly it happened on the park. I'm sorry, this is time. So I should write in the after. It kind of looked like the afternoon. So I'm gonna write afternoon. Sometimes it's not super clear, and that's okay. And then the place was a park. And then here's how it happened. The exposition. Ollie was minding his own business, and this part is when we get to know the characters. We got to know Ollie, and we also got to know Janessa, but she was on the phone, so we didn't get to see her. And then when the problem rises, when the problem is shown, that's the rising action, and that's when Janessa told her, Ollie, hey, my cat is up there. I need some help. So Ollie was, okay, let's try that. So here we saw the climax where the cat was trapped and didn't know what to do, and then Ollie climbs a tree. We don't actually see that, but we can kind of imagine it. And again, if it was an action movie, we could hear like Ollie climbing up that tree and getting that cat, maybe getting a little bit scratch. I don't know. That's a climax, the most important turning point of the story. And then there's a falling action. Now, Ollie already has the cat with him and with Janessa, and she's all happy and saying, "Oh, I'm so thankful, Ollie." That's the falling action, when everything starts to settle down. And then at the end, we have the resolution when they're all like, "Okay, let's just go get an ice cream," because that's what kids do. All right, so that's the end. That's the resolution of the story. Now, the theme, what did we learn from this story? I'm gonna give my 2 cents on this. I think just be a good friend. Or we can also say help others. That's what I learned from this story, because Ali was such a good friend. All right, so what you are going to do next is, am I recording this? Yes. So what we're gonna do next is you're gonna do your own story. You're gonna make up your own characters, put a time and place, start thinking about how the characters are gonna be introduced in a little exposition. How is it going to be a rising action? What's going to be your most important thing? What's going to be when everything starts settling down, and the resolution? Now, you can think about an event that happened to you that kind of got important, anything. And then I just need a couple of sentences here written. I don't want a whole story, just a couple of sentences will do. All right? That you're going to do on your own. You're going to turn it into your teacher, and that's your activity today. Okay, guys? So today we'll learn about the elements of a narrative and what a narrative is. It's pretty much just a story and all of the elements that create the plot of a story also. So let's work on that, and you're all good. Okay, guys? See you around.